I've been thinking a lot lately about bass guitars, encountering the thoughts about how I'd employ them in my songs in particular, and the kind of roles that they would have for, songs coming up in the future as well, and the way that I would use them and the mentality towards it. I've got a lot of respect for the bass guitar. I mean, it's a magnificent thing in of itself. It operates at a particular frequency spectrum on the record that the other instruments can't necessarily operate at. So it fulfills that role, um, that kind of that deeper, lower end sort of thing. But aside from things like production and frequencies and that, yeah, just the tone the layman's ear would hear, and the kind of things you can do with that voice, single note or chord, and how that works against my chords. All the time it's this thing that bass players and drummers, they're the ones that need to be tied together, and they're the ones with like the special relationship and this kind of thing. But I really feel drawn to the bass. I've never had one, I've never played one and that, but I suppose I care a lot about what the bass would be doing on my record. Um, and it's funny because I was speaking with a really good up and coming drummer, and he said, yeah, he doesn't feel that relationship with bass. He actually feels the relationship with the guitarist and what they're doing, what the rhythm guitarist is doing, and the kind of they try to play off them. And I thought, well, that's great. I'll probably have a really good musical relationship with this drummer. It would probably be quite nice to sort of sit and just do a 2Z jam or something. But yeah, the bass role, it's a funny thing because I haven't started, putting bassists in with me at the moment. That's an upcoming thing. But from like playing guitar as I have over all this time alone, I've kind of developed this thing where I play quite heavily the bass notes myself. So I'm not like going completely off kilter, but on some songs I'm adding bass lines there, uh, and adding these little runs in with my play, or conscientiously thinking of picking out the bass notes there, and I'm giving them a certain kind of attack. And I suppose in some cases it's my finger picking style, or whichever guitar I'm using, the attack might be quite heavy there on the deep E or A strings, or whatever, just on my basic rhythm guitar. But I think the thing is that I suppose I'd be concerned that some bassists might look at the song and say, well, you're playing all the bass parts, where do I come in? And as far as I'm concerned, if I'm playing like, I don't know, alternate picking parts or something like that, I'd say that that's a really good opportunity for the bassist to actually say, yeah, I don't just have to plod along next to the music, because it's nice in some sections for the bass to sort of pull back and just play something away from. It doesn't necessarily need to be at the front at that moment in a given song. But I quite like the idea of the bass having its own melodic structure, its own voice, its own melody, potentially even a counterpoint to another section of the song, counterpointing that melodically or what have you, not just going along with the drums. And you see that technique a lot on some of those later Beatle records. I quite like that. I particularly like, for instance, what Paul McCartney does on Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. That you get all these like bass melodies that run around the song and thing. And for me, the bass really is a star on that. A bunch of Paul McCartney kind of tracks of that sort of era upwards are real stars, and that's where he really got into the melodic phrasing of the bass guitar itself. So I think that's a nice opportunity. So rather than maybe look at, well, I'm playing your part, maybe it's like, yeah, this is your chance to sort of do that. And I want my songs to have things like that where the bass can really, come along and do that. And sometimes I'll write in my head, all the parts for all the instruments sort of thing. And I'll be like, yeah, okay, the bass has to go like this, and I'm going dum 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 dum, and I'll voice it. Um, or whatever, sing it over the thing, or work it out on MIDI, or whatever. What the bass guitar would additionally do. Uh, yeah. So it's just kind of a shout out and just like a respectful hey to the bass players out there. Um, you know, I love you bass players. And let's play something sometime, yeah.